our spirit? What is it? Where does it go? Are we able to see them using our mind's eye? If so, just what can spirit teach us? Welcome to School Through Spirit. Host DeEtte Ranae is a certified psychic medium and master teacher of psychic and mediumship development through LWISSD. DeEtte was born knowing spirit and now is here to help you better understand the spirit world. And now your host, DeEtte Ranae.
Good Monday morning, everybody. This is DeEtte Ranae here on School Through Spirit with WLTK-DB.com. This is a show where I do explore different people's lives, their modalities, and how spirit really has affected them. Now, each week, I do have a special guest, which today is Mr. Joe Franke. Oh, my God, you're going to love Mr. Joe Franke. Oh, my God, you're going to love him, love him, love him. And, yeah, let's talk. So this week, let's talk about the topic, which is just mess up my life at the last minute. I'll tell you what, sorry I'm late, guys. Literally what happened is I have been gone all weekend and my computer decided it needed to do an update, and being a Mac, although I love it, if I didn't hit the okay, my computer wasn't going to work today. So I hit the okay thinking, oh, I got 15 minutes. Yeah, it's still trying to update, guys. So I am currently on my phone because literally couldn't get I couldn't get the Mac to work. I couldn't get my laptop, nothing would work, not even my phone. It was like crazy. So finally got in. So again, I apologize. Right now I can't see anybody's comments. As soon as my computer is done updating, I'm going to switch back over to that, and then I will say hi to everybody that has showed up and coming in to just reach out. And I want to say again, I apologize for being late, but thank you always for coming in. So today I want to talk about the obvious, Halloween, but I really don't want to talk about it in the way that everybody else does. You know what I mean? Halloween is freaking amazing. Let's do a little bit of a back update on this because, you know, we're all about trick-or-treating these days, and we've heard a lot about the veil being thin and all those other wonderful things that we discuss about Halloween. But let's take this back to the very beginning of what Halloween was. And it really wasn't even Halloween. It was just a Celtic day, Celtic New Year's. This is Celtic New Year's Eve. Okay. Back in the ancient times, 2000 years ago, today was a Celtic New Year's Eve. Meaning this is the last day of harvest. This is the last day of bringing those crops in, all that wonderful stuff. And then tomorrow would have been the New Year. And for me, today really marks, you know what, in my life, I get two new beginnings. I get two because I like to look at Halloween as that. Now, one of the things that did evolve with this new year to kind of like to fast track us to where we're at these days. One of the things that did evolve from Halloween was, yes, it was a new year. Yes, it was all this wonderful stuff. But some people believe that this was the day that people that were prophets could easily see the future. And then it evolved into, the veil or the lines between the dead and the living being blurred. And when that belief started to happen, that is when the Celtics really started to turn into, they would literally, the hearths in their house, they would put out. So, the fire would not be in their house. And they would light bonfires around the village. And they would have celebrations, or they would have moments where sometimes they would even put on costumes. But there were scarier costumes, and these were to ward off the ghosts from the fields, from the crops. And that's where it really started. Now, it did evolve into what we have today, which is trick-or-treating. And yeah, it did go through all the different religions and until it finally got to what we have today. But literally, when we take back to what Halloween really was at the core, it's a new beginning, isn't it? It's not even about All Hallows Eve, because that's really only taking it back to pagan. It's not going back to Druidism. And I did a lot of research on this. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. So when you look at that harvest, that this is that harvest time, which is fall for us. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but this time of the year used to be a really hard time for me. Used to be an incredibly difficult time for me. The reason being is because fall to me used to be death. I would look around at the trees and I would see all the luscious green just, change into all the other colors. And yeah, the colors are gorgeous, but I knew that marked that really it was just a lack of nutrients to these things, a lack of fluids and nutrients to the leaves, causing this, chemical change. And that soon all the leaves were going to fall off and the trees would be barren and all this stuff would be happening. And I struggled with it. I hated fall. It was like, honestly, the worst time of the year for me was fall, just because for me, it was about loss. It was about loss. I never understood why or what that meant. I would sit in a chair and I would look and I would cry. And it was bad. It was bad. And it took me a long time to realize, and it took me until I talked to a friend by the name of Greg. And I can remember sitting up in Hayward, Wisconsin, on the phone with him in the backyard crying because this beautiful, lush green forest was dying. And he said, "Why do you look at it that way?" And I'm like, "Because the trees, they just look so barren." And he went, "But it really is about a sign of rebirth." And I was like, "Okay, you got me stumped. You've got me. I don't know how you see this as rebirth." And he really brought in that cycle of life. It's the cycle of life of that, everything has to die in order to be reborn. Everything has to die in order to be reborn. And I went, "Yeah, well, I don't like losing people either, And he kind of laughed and he giggled at me because he is a medium. And at that point, I really wasn't practicing and I really didn't have the knowledge I have today or the experience. And what I realized through our conversation was that fall really was about the harvest of everything we've put into our lives over a year. All that work, all that time, all that effort. It was a harvest. It was about reaping the rewards, because if you start a garden in the spring, and let's talk about this from a standpoint of a gardening, not about our lives, but of gardening. Now, in the spring, we plant our gardens. We plant them. Okay, we get our seeds and we put everything where we're going to put it, and we spend all summer, spring and summer, we water it and we weed it and we tend to it and we put all this effort in. And then when fall comes, all those fruits and those vegetables have grown. And it's time to collect those and bring them into our families. It's time to feed our family. It's time to feed our soul. Okay, it is when, we have that time to see all that we've done and see the harvest, that bounty of it, of what we've done. And all those luscious fruits and vegetables are everywhere. And then when we're done with that, we've pulled everything out. It really is sad because you see a lot of dead vines. You see a lot of things that you have to weed out. You have to weed out everything you've put in. Now you're essentially taking it all out of the earth. But then you do something different. You actually start to prepare your garden for the next year. And this is something I wasn't noticing. This is something I wasn't realizing. Now, we don't prepare our gardens in the spring, do we? We actually prepare them in the winter, in the fall. Because after you pull out all the weeds and you pull out all the debris and all the roots and all that stuff, and you put that to the side and you can put that in a compost, that is when you put, your fertilizer into the ground, whether you use a compost or a horse manure or cow manure, or you go and you do more artificial, whatever you do, this is the time that you prepare that. Okay. This is the time where you start to prepare it. Another beautiful thing that we do is we take those leaves that fell from the trees, those things that make me so sad. We take those leaves and we put them deep, like 2 to 3 foot deep on top of the garden. Because those leaves are going to compost themselves down. And all the nutrients of them are going to go right into the ground. Now, if you're my house and you have a wood burning stove or a fireplace, all of those ashes from the wintertime, we also spread on top of that garden throughout the winter, Granted, it's on the snow, but we still spread it all out because that brings the soil back to a baseline. So we spend all winter continuing the soil, continuing the nurturing, continuing. Now we start to plan. This is that time where we plan for what is going to be in the spring again, what we want to work on, what we want to really prepare. And that's about the first of the year, January 1st, where I start thinking about that. Now, if you think about this, that is when more preparation happens. And as you continue that all the way up until March, now March, you finally figured out what you want to plant and how you're going to map it out and how you're going to change it up from last year's and what more knowledge you've got to put into this. And we start all over again. Now everybody wants to say, well, we start planting our garden in the spring, but really you don't, do we? That starting actually happens immediately after the harvest. And that's what Halloween is to me. That's what today is to me about. Now, trust me, being a medium, I do not take the part of the souls and the veil and the spirits and the ghosts and throw them away. I don't do that. I bring all that in because I'll tell you what, it's also such a beautiful time because how this day has evolved and it's brought so much belief for so many people in. It's amazing. So I would be a fool to not state all the rest is there. Because I do truly believe with the more people that believe, the more thin that veil is anyway, even throughout the year. Okay, not just today or this last week. I truly believe that this time of the year is actually a big time for belief to start to happen. And as long as I educate, that belief keeps to go through the year long time. And it's amazing to see people awaken, people to realize, and it's amazing. But for me, I like to take Halloween back to the originals, which is the beginning, a rebirth. Today is about literally taking in the harvest of my year. This is really that time where I go, wow, how far have I come since January 1st? How far have I come? How has the preparation, the contemplation of what I want to do with my existence, what I want to do with this time, how has that evolved in the last 10 months? And today's the day that I'm going to think about that. Today's the day I'm going to go, wow, the connections I made, the friendships I made, the depths of learning and growing I've done for myself, and how that is all just accumulated. And how I've pushed myself past boundaries and how I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And today's the day that I go, I pat myself on the back and I say, girl, you did good. But I know tomorrow is when I start another new beginning. And this is a new beginning where I start to go, okay, all these amazing things are happening. But what can I do to prepare myself for next year? I've got 2 months to start my preparation. I've got 2 months to go, oh, this sounds interesting. This looks great. I'm going to do some research on this. Do I want to put my time and effort into this? And I'm going to give myself 2 months to do that. 2 beautiful months. So that on January 1st, my second new beginning of the year, and yes, I give myself 2 because you know what? Every girl wants more than one of anything that's good. And on January 1st, I'm going to start to put some hardcore contemplation on how I'm going to make that come together. How am I going to plant that? How am I going to do all that? And it's really amazing because as I say that, my big computer now, my iMac, is done updating. So even that has said, hey, we needed a time to harvest. With that being said, sorry today's talk is short, guys, but I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to get back on the big computer, and I'll see you in a few when I bring in Joe. This is DeEtte Ranae of School Through Spirit with WLTK-DB.com. See you in a few.
Weisensel's psychic medium is a medical intuitive that specializes as a body code practitioner. As an energy healer, Ellie offers additional services that allow her modalities to be intertwined with energetic healing. Within your subconscious lies information that knows everything about you and why you deal with specific conditions. The subconscious can be considered the blueprint to your entire body. With Ellie working physically with your subconscious mind, we detect what negative emotions are trapped and where they are stored within the body that is causing you your emotional and physical pain. This work is designed to remove imbalances and correct them energetically, getting to the root cause of why you have your condition, to help balance your body so it may heal itself. Your body is infinitely wise and wants to be in balance. The body code is not only gentle for humans, but it is also a gentle process to help animals. For more information, contact Ellie Weisensel at the website below.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
Good morning and welcome back here to School Through Spirit with DeEtte Ranae here on WLTK-DB. Apparently, I'm good on my ads for the next year because even though I was switching over and it was done, it wouldn't let me in. It was still crazy. Now, I do want to bring in Joe Franke. I appreciate him so much. Hello, Joe. How are you? I can't hear you. You have to unmute, darling.
Sorry about that.
There you are.
Thanks for having me.
I'm
a big dumb animal.
No, you are not. I'll tell you what, I have had the roughest morning, like roughest.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's, you know what? It's all good. It's all what it's going to be. But I couldn't even get into my own show on any device.
Boy. It is Halloween.
It is. It is, you know.
I'll exorcise the demons for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Joe, oh my God, I want to first say thank you so much for coming in. You know, I didn't introduce you as everybody. Joe is literally the CEO of the Warren Legacy Foundation, and I can honestly say one of my bosses. One of my bosses.
Oh, well, I'm not the CEO. That's Chris. I'm the
Oh, why
chairman of
not?
the board and CIO.
CIO.
That's okay. I hate acronyms myself.
That's okay. I have
Should
my
write a
own
book on
Dawson
them
doll. You
someday.
have an Annabelle doll. I have a Dawson doll.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's Hannibal. That's the good sister. The other one's in jail.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's
So
her
can you
twin.
tell everybody a little bit about you?
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm Joe Franke. I started in the paranormal field in 1986 when I was 18 years old. So now everybody knows how old I am. uh I had met Ed and Lorraine Warren at one of their lectures, and I remember when I approached the table, it's the first time I've ever met them, and Lorraine looked at me and she was kind of looking at me and cocking her head to the side, and she says, "Honey, have we met before?" She's like, "There's something familiar about you. Have we met before?" And I said, "No, Lorraine, I've heard a lot about you guys and seen you on television and read about you in print media and radio." But she's looking at me, and what she was doing, and I know you'll understand this, is she was reading my aura.
Okay.
She was reading, my aura, and she said, "There's a reason why you're here tonight." She said, "Make sure you come and talk to Ed and I after the show." So I was
Yeah.
all excited. Here I am, 18-year-old. I'm a teenager still, and I'm sitting there through the show, and I can't keep a thought in my head. I'm like, what does she want to talk to me about?
Right.
So anyway, fast forward a little bit. The show ends, and Ed's like, "Come on, kids, let's go." Called me kids. I was a kid then. Now I'm an old guy. But we went across the street to the diner, and um, Lorraine was sitting across from me, and she was holding my hand, and she was telling me what she was doing. Sorry, I'm moving my thing here. And she said, "Honey, I can tell from your aura you were meant to do this work."
Oh,
And she
wow.
said, "Would you like to come and work with Ed and I?" And I'm like, yeah. And from there, as they say, the rest is history. I mean, they used to have classes. They had a select number of people, their students, and they used to have classes in a little back room of a restaurant near the town where they lived. And Ed would bring in his case notes and his tape recorder and his recordings and video recordings of some of the biggest cases they worked on. At that point, I remember the first one was Amityville.
Right.
And he would play, some of the tapes from Amityville. He would play tapes from the Enfield Poltergeist, which is the movie The Conjuring 2 is based on, the case, I should say.
Yeah.
And from the Rhode Island farmhouse, The Conjuring 1. And then, of course, the Brookfield, Connecticut case in Brookfield, Connecticut, the third Conjuring movie.
Okay.
And we would discuss them, and he would, would say, "This is what happened. This is what we did to combat it." We had to bring in a priest or archbishop that had to come in and bring in an exorcist. And I'm like, my head was just like,
Yeah, that's a whole lot. You're like, oh boy.
It was just an amazing experience. It really, changed my life. It took me in a whole different direction than I thought I was going to go. But who knows when you're, a teenager where your life's going to end up.
That's true.
And, people ask me all the time, like, what was it like working with them, or what were they like? I'm like, they were just people. They're very kind people. They were like grandparents to me. That's when I met Chris, who's my good friend and been my good friend for almost 40 years.
Right.
And, so when they passed, it was sad. Ed passed in 2006. Lorraine passed 3 years ago, and we want to carry on their work. I mean, I've been doing the work this whole time. I also have my own group. It's not a group. It's just my buddy and I, the Connecticut Paranormal Research Society here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
We formed that in 93.
Okay.
But I would always consult with Ed and Lorraine on cases, whether it be in person or, over the phone. If we got a tough case, I'd call them. They were my mentors,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I got started. I've been doing it quite a while.
Oh, so
Quite a while.
you're like quite a while, just quite a while. Like
Just a few years.
this is like normal to you, you know? Which just
Oh yeah.
time you and I talk, I'm just like, I talk to you and I'm like, this is not normal, Joe. This is not normal.
No, well, I the way I describe myself, when I lecture, I said, look, I'm just, a normal guy with an abnormal hobby, so to
With it, yeah,
speak. I mean, this to me, in all seriousness, is a vocation. It's not an occupation.
right.
I've always said that. It was a calling.
Mhm.
Lorraine kind of confirmed that for me. And, I've been fascinated by the work. I don't profess to know everything because I certainly don't.
Right,
I don't feel that there is anyone that knows everything.
right,
Not comfortable being called a paranormal expert. I'm like, well, I'm still learning. Um, I'm always learning. I'm always looking for answers. And as you probably well know this, uh, the answers won't come in my time. They'll come in God's time. They'll come. Maybe I'll get the answers someday when I'm passed over. But it's just a mystery, but based on 30, almost just about 37 years of knowledge and experience, we have some pretty good theories on things,
I
and thank you so much for your help. You've been a godsend to me and the team, in helping out with some of these cases, because I've got a lot of them.
it's been I will tell you what, it's been an honor. It really has. And I love how you stated that, because it's, how you never know where your life is going to direct you. You just never know. Yeah. I never
Hmm.
knew back in May when Heather sent me a message saying, "Can I come on your show?"
Mm.
that a few months later I would be part of the foundation. I
Well, happy to have you.
yeah, I would have never thought that. Not in a million years would
You
I have
know,
that.
it, it brings to memory something I learned in high school. I took Greek mythology. I don't know if you know much about Greek
Oh, a
mythology,
lot. A
but
lot.
and I might have told you this before, so forgive me. But for your audience, I believe in fate. I believe in the fates.
Yeah.
In Greek mythology, the statement, the quote says, "That which is fated must come to pass, but
Yeah.
against my fate, no man can kill me."
Right.
So if I'm fated to do this work, I'm going to do it. No matter what I do to try and change it, it's always going to bring me back because this is my path.
Exactly.
I'm a firm believer in this. I believe that you and I were fated to meet,
Oh yeah.
and do some good work together.
Yeah.
You know, um, and I talk about this when I lecture. And on the opposite side of that, I talk about divination and how you shouldn't be getting involved with divination. I mean, it's a slippery slope.
It's a
When you
it's
don't
a
know what you're doing, if you know what you're doing, it's one thing. But when you don't know what you're doing and you're looking at Ouija boards and tarot cards and you're looking for information about the future through supernatural means, those are doorways,
Mhm.
that can possibly let in negative entities,
Yeah.
and it's tricky. When people are like, "Oh, Joe, I went to a cemetery with a Ouija board with some friends last night," and now so I'm like, "What the heck were you doing at a cemetery with a Ouija board?" I mean, their spirits aren't there; their bodies may be there, but
Right.
hopefully they've gone on to a happier place. But
Yeah. I've always
it,
told people, "Don't even bother putting me in a cemetery because I'm not gonna stick around anyway." When I'm
yeah,
done,
no.
they're like, "Where do you wanna go, mom?" And I'm like, treat me like Edgar Allan Poe." I mean, he's, like, buried in Wisconsin. Just put me in the back of the truck, put the tailgate down, go real
Yeah,
fast and see if I pop out someplace, and then don't turn around and come back because I'm not there. You know what
right,
I mean? Just,
right. Well, we
so
as human beings like to have a tangible place we can go
yeah,
to.
that
And
is
I understand that. I mean, I told my wife, I said, just, save some money, cremate me, and sprinkle my ashes at one of my lighthouses.
there you go, which is perfect, which is perfect. Now what I
Mm,
wanna go onto the Ouija board thing, Ouija
yeah,
board, tarot cards, all of that type of stuff, because
yeah,
Ouija boards aren't necessarily my world, you know what I mean? And I
yeah.
don't use tarot
Good.
cards readings, but you know what? Educate some people on that because I do educate people on that, but what is your perspective?
Well, I mean, I don't want people to get mad at me. I'm just saying
No.
that, um, when you're looking for information about the future, and a lot of people, the opposite of that would be prey. People
Right.
are impatient these days. They want instant gratification. Hence, like
Yes.
digital cameras. When we had 35 millimeter cameras, we had to take them to the store, get them processed, costs a lot of money. And you go like, oh, damn, I got nothing, Now with the digital camera, immediately. And we've become a society where we want immediate information now in the here and now, myself included. Sometimes I get impatient. But, so when people pray for things, you pray for a loved one to get better, or you pray to win the lotto or something, like I said, answers come in God's time.
Right.
Ed used to teach me, he's like, Joe, spirits don't come on your time. They come in God's time. So, people that get involved in this work, and I call them thrill seekers, because they really don't know what they're getting into,
Right.
especially when they're using the Ouija board. I mean, I know I'm bouncing around on you like this, but
No,
it all has to do with the
Very
Ouija
broad
board, and those forms of divination I talk about are, most common would be the Ouija board,
right.
but a seance, satanic worship, making a deal with the devil, so to speak. People will do that, and they don't know how dangerous that is. Even if they're joking around, you don't know how dangerous it is, because evil is there and it's waiting for you to open that doorway. Right. And I learned this from, I don't know if you ever heard of the gentleman, Father Gary Thomas.
I have, through speaking with you. Yes.
Yeah. Father Gary Thomas is the priest whose life the movie The Rite was based on. RITE, stand for the Rite of Exorcism. He's an exorcist. He lives out in San Francisco area. And I know I spoke with him some years ago on the phone a couple of times about a case in Vermont I was working on. And I remember, and I've watched a bunch of his lectures. He's fascinating to listen to, but he talks about these things and how these negative entities need a doorway that we open up via our own free will.
Yeah.
I mean, people say, well, God, why would God make me suffer like this? Or why would God let this happen? God does not intervene in our free will. But if we choose by our own free will to forfeit that, by trying to make a deal with the devil, or say, hey, I'll sell my soul if I go win the lotto or something like that. You're not going to win the lotto, but that's a doorway. Okay. So like going back to the Ouija board, as I explain it, the Ouija board is a board game by Parker Brothers. Right. It's the intent behind that. Well, I mean, what intention could you possibly have to buy a Ouija board or pick one up at a secondhand store or something? You use it, and you're using it to hopefully make contact. You don't even need a board. I mean, seances, stuff like that. And, if you don't know what you're doing, how do you protect yourself, ground yourself, protect yourself? Right. That's where you can get into trouble. And, I try to educate, I make my shows fun. I've got a great sense of humor, but, then I get serious. I said, let me be serious with you folks. I said, for any of those would-be paranormal investigators out there, listen to what I'm saying, because I was once where you are. I said, and most people do listen. Some people may have an attitude, like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, well, okay, but eventually you're going to come reach out to me or one of my colleagues, because now you have an attachment and you've got something going on and you don't know how to get rid of it. And I tell people, I said, look, I'm not going to show up with a proton pack on my back, and suck this thing in, like in the movies. It doesn't work that way. It would be. Hey, maybe 500 years from now we'll be able to do it. But Star Trek years. But I just say, why spin the wheel and take a chance? Why roll the dice? Don't go looking for trouble, because it may not happen for a while. It may not happen for a year, 10 years, 20 years. These things hate us because we are children of God and we're made in the image of God. At least that's my belief. I'm trying to push my beliefs on others, but we all these demonic forces, these evil forces, which it's rare. Possession cases, they're rare. Hollywood would have you to believe there's a demon lurking around every corner. It simply doesn't work that way. I mean, look at the cases we've worked on together. And we really haven't had anything dark,
we have, I mean, they get scary,
maybe human.
but honestly, I don't think I've come across an actual demon yet.
No, and I hope you don't. I hope you don't. But it's good to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I caution people, I said, look, there's people out there that want to do good work. They have the best intentions, and that's great. What I recommend for them is to find someone like myself that's been doing this a long time, and get some guidance, get some mentorship.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have been trained by Ed and Lorraine, and I went on a vacation. I went on some vacations with them. I went on investigations with them. Took their classes for many years. Learned from them. I used to go on to their famous museum. I don't know if you've ever been there, with all the artifacts that they collected over the years. And say, okay, Joe, this artifact here is from this case, and they tell me about it, and I'd be standing there going, he'd be like, "Now, make sure you don't touch anything." I'm like, "I ain't touching anything," I'd have goosebumps. The hair would be standing on the back of my neck, and I was a big, strong guy. I was bigger than I am now. I was my son's age, at 27 years old, 25 years old. Physical size and strength has nothing to do with this.
Right.
It may help in some situations, but you need to be strong spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. I've been punched, bitten, scratched, pushed, burned, been picked up and thrown across a room about 10 or 12 feet when I was 350 pounds. I mean, Casper the Friendly Ghost doesn't have that kind of strength. They can't do that.
Right.
But you have to be able to stand up, brush yourself off, and say, hey, is that all you got?
Right.
Because I'm not leaving.
Mhm.
Guess what? You're leaving. No matter what has to be done, you're leaving.
Right.
Because you got a frightened family in the wings, and they don't know what to do. They're reaching out to you for help.
Right.
And you get groups that go in there because they just want to get the money shot, and they want to throw, a video or something up on their YouTube channel or their social media pages. And I can't tell you how many cases come our way. I've got one in Rhode Island I'm working on now, where a group went in there. Something happened that freaked them out. I think a can of caviar exploded inexplicably.
Right.
It was just sitting on the counter, and they packed up their equipment. The owner's like, Joe, they couldn't get out of here fast enough. They were terrified.
Wow.
And so I said, well, I'm going to try to reach out to this team and see if they'll talk to me, because I need to know what they experienced. I need to know what I'm getting into.
Right.
So I was fortunate enough to get one of the members of the team that talked to me. She's like, I'm so glad you found me. She said, because I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Weird.
And I was very disappointed when she told me, the team leader and I think his girlfriend or wife ran this team, and they left this family hanging basically. For months. The guy was trying to reach out to him, and why'd you run out of here? What'd you find? What'd you see? What'd you experience?
Right.
Nothing. They just ghosted him completely.
Right.
Pardon the pun.
Well, it's a truth, though. It's what happens.
It is.
Quite often.
So I was kind of upset, and sorry, I got my dog Casper here.
You're
Casper.
good. Hey, I had a grandchild for a minute, so we're good.
That's right. I got a little white dog. His name is Casper. Has to be.
Oh, very nice.
So, this woman was very kind, a young lady. She was probably in her mid-20s, and she told me a lot, and I thanked her profusely. But I said, you know what? She says, I don't agree with their methods. She goes, I don't even want to be part of this group anymore. I said, will you tell them for me that they should shut down their Facebook page? They should shut down all their social media, take their YouTube down, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I said, and it's only a matter of time before they get affected, because it's very possible.
Yeah.
But that's all a lot of these people want is to look at me syndrome, I call it. It's like even the Paracons. I didn't do Paracons for the longest time. I just did my first one this year ever.
Yeah.
Because it's like, look at me, everybody sets up their tables, and I'm like, well, yeah, I've done that. You probably saw the pictures of the one I just did in New York. I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing. It's the first time I actually set up a table. But what I had on my table were things to help protect folks. Archbishop Torres and I went up to Represent the Foundation, and I had one table with stuff that we use for protection to help people: holy water, Saint Benedict medals, rosaries. And on the other table, I had items like up here behind me. You see that painting was done by Ed Warren that was given to me by Chris.
Right.
I had things that people wanted to see of the Warrens. I had one of Ed's original tape recorders. I have a set of rosary beads that were given to me by Lorraine about 5 years or so before she passed away.
Right.
Those things are priceless to me. Some of their books, I usually have them right here in my bookcase, but they're still in the car, to be honest with you, because I've got a lecture on Saturday I'm going to bring them to.
Right.
So, like an original copy of the original print of the Demonologist book,
Okay.
signed by both of them to me and Laurel, my wife.
Mhm.
And those are priceless to me. I mean, I can't replace them,
Right.
things like that. So and people just, they were drawn to it, especially redhead here, he's like, is that the real Annabelle? I said, no, full disclosure, it's not the real doll. It's your good twin sister,
Right. Right.
but it was just really cool. I had her in a little rocking chair, and that's where Warrens kept Annabelle in a rocking chair for years until they had the case built, because people would come over and touch the doll, and there was a priest that picked the doll up and threw it across the room and said, God is more powerful than the devil. Ed's like, yes, Father, you're right, but no priest is.
It's
No
right.
100 priests.
Yeah.
He told me that. He's like, Joe, he says, God is more powerful than the devil, but no man is.
Mhm.
And so it was a lot of fun to do it, but I try to educate people and
Right.
say, look, if you really feel a calling to do this work, my heart's with you. I said, because I didn't know anything when I first started. I
Yeah.
said, but you don't find a lot of people that are genuine like that. There are a lot of people out there that do this, but it's the thrill seekers and the people that get, I don't know how they get themselves on TV. I've turned down more TV shows than I could count right now.
Wow.
I don't want to be on TV. I have a face for radio, so
That's what my producer says. He's probably laughing at you right now, or laughing with you, because he says it all the time. Because I'm always like, Todd, get on the camera. He's
yeah,
like,
I'm looking at myself. I'm all gray now,
yeah, it happens. You know what? Just put
yeah.
blonde in it. It covers up or accentuates it.
Yeah, no, my wife won't let me dye my hair. She says it looks distinguished. I'm like,
There you
okay.
go. There you go. Now, you know what?
We'll go with that.
I want to backtrack a little bit just so people aren't confused, because I think people get very confused on it, and it's my realm,
Yep.
because what people don't realize, with as much as the Warren Legacy Foundation, you or other people talk against, like Ouija boards and things of that nature, the foundation and Lorraine specifically were very big on psychic support or mediumship.
Yeah.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? So, I think people are out there going, well, which way is it? Because I know for myself, that was huge. That was huge, because my sister, God bless her heart, she was very Christian and very against divination and very against everything, but would call me and have me remote view into her house or talk to some people for her. And I would sit there so confused on, well, which one is it? Am I for God or get, where does it put us? Does that make sense?
It
So,
does. It does. And
how
for
do
people like yourself that know what you're doing, I mean,
yeah,
you're a teacher, so you're teaching these folks how
yeah.
to ground themselves and how to
Mhm.
control their gifts. And someday I want you to teach me.
Hey,
Uh,
I already wrote a whole thing up for the foundation.
Thank you so
We just
much.
got to get a hold of her stuff and say, hey, she's mine. Remember, give me
Oh yeah.
give me the email.
Oh yeah. No, you're mine. I mean, they have to fight me. They have to fight me for you, especially Jeff.
That is a
Jeff,
joke.
he's fighting a losing battle.
For everybody listening, Joe is actually the person that brought me into the foundation to work with Joe. And I went through everything.
I'm selfish.
I went through all of the hoops and interviews and everything, with everybody having a small smirk on their face, like this is technicality. And now there's a battle because I am Midwest, between Jeff and the regional for Midwest, and Joe going, but I brought her in for the big cases.
Well, I mean, my job with the foundation as CIO, which is, I don't know, I'm not big on titles, but just
Right.
so that people know who I am, Chief Investigative Officer. If one of my our regional directors needs help with
Yeah.
a case, they can always call me. I
Right.
mean, anybody can call me. You can call me. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I
Right.
know if you're calling me at 3 a.m, and if I hear the phone, I know you need me. And
Right.
I tell people, I give people my personal phone number, my personal email address. I'm like, if you need me, especially the clients, I don't care what time of day it is, what time of night it is, call me.
Yeah.
I don't mind. If you wake me up fine. You wake me up, and that's the way Lorraine was.
Mhm.
Lorraine would tell me, Joe, if you need help, if you're out on a case, and I would talk to him sometimes at night. There was one case that, as she got up in years, and this has never happened to me before, really tough case back in 2008. And I remember getting a phone call from Judy, her daughter, and Judy's like, Joe, do me a big favor, please don't bring my mom to this house. Judy had the gift too, and she just had a bad feeling. I said, absolutely not. I won't bring her. I wouldn't. But that was a pretty hairy case. That had a demonic presence, and I talk about that and actually show video at my lectures.
Right.
So, but I'm sorry, I digress.
No, that's right.
So yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you know how to control it, and fine.
Yeah.
But it's the people that just say, I want answers. Let me just do a spirit box session.
Right.
And people, I won't mention any names, publicly, but it's like, if this is the gates of hell, why don't you rise up here and get us? I'm like, oh my God, why would you say that? Yeah, I know you're doing it for the show and for the sensationalism, but you're going to end up getting affected at some point in your life. They're just not going to let that slide. I mean, you're inviting that. It's like I said, it's a doorway. You open the door and you say, come on in. What are you letting in?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the spirit of a little girl or a little boy or something innocent. Well, that's what it wants you to believe.
Right.
Because then, because it allows you to just draw it closer.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, it's a little girl. It's so sad. Maybe sometimes it is, but how do you know?
Well, that's just it.
How do you know? I don't use Ouija boards. I have people give them to me to get rid of.
Right.
I tried to burn one once and it wouldn't burn. I flooded this thing with lighter fluid, and the edges burned, but the board itself would not burn. And I remember calling Ed on the phone. This was many years ago. I called Ed and he's like, bury it. You have holy water, kid? Yep, I always have holy water. I got gallons of it. He says, dig a hole in the backyard of that home and consecrate the ground, bury the board. And then I had a St. Michael medal and a St. Benedict medal, and I buried it with it. It's probably still there today. It's probably 25 years ago.
Wow.
22, 25 years, a long time ago. These were college students at Westcon College in Connecticut. And this board was taking over their lives. They wouldn't make a move, if they wanted an answer to something, they would, okay, let's consult the board.
Right.
And when we went there, Orlando and I went there, the place was dark. And I'm talking about dark, meaning absence of light. They had all the shades and curtains drawn. And I'm like, what is this? The Addams family live here? I'm like, you need to open up the windows, lighten up the place, open up the curtains, let light in here, let air in here, let it flow through,
Right.
But they were just mesmerized by this board. And finally, I convinced them to stop. Now, if they went out and bought another one, I don't know, or they dug up the one I buried, but we got rid of it that night. I said, you guys have to stop this.
Right.
And I hope they went on to have, fruitful adult lives. I never kept in touch with them. We lost touch after a while, but
right.
It's just really dangerous. Why play Russian roulette with it?
Right. Oh, I like this. Lady is asking, how are kids who see and hear spirits supposed to distinguish between what is a spirit that wants to speak to them versus an entity that is trying to manipulate and get closer to the trick than allowing something dark in?
Well, my answer would be to find someone like you to assist, because that's what I would do. If I was called in on a case like that, I certainly would try to tell the child not to engage, not to give it recognition. I know that's hard. Children are extremely curious.
Right.
I mean, that was something that happened at the Amityville house. Missy, the daughter, would see this little boy. I don't know if you ever seen that famous photo of the little boy peering out the door in the Amityville case.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when George Lutz, he gave an interview that I heard. George Lutz said that they showed that picture to the children, and Missy, the daughter, because that was her room, her bedroom. Right. She said, "Oh, that's the little boy that I play with." I mean, people are like, some producer reporter brought their kid. I'm like, no, they didn't. You don't bring children on cases like that. No, granted, it wasn't the Amityville horror, with air quotes here. It was just another case to the Warrens. The book and the movie, when that came out, labeled it as the Amityville horror. But that family, it was pretty horrific what happened there. But getting back to the question, it's a very good question. And that's not my specialty. That'd probably be your specialty.
Mm-hmm.
I would help guide them to someone like Lorraine, or I have a couple of friends here in Connecticut that are very gifted
Right.
to help the child. But then you got to deal with the parents first, though. Parents like, it's child's imagination. She's just making this stuff up. I don't believe in it.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, I'm not going to know about it until the parent's convinced enough to say, I got to call somebody in. We got to put a stop to this. And,
Right.
hopefully the parent would at least listen to their child. But children, I feel, are very innocent and very open to this kind of stuff. But I definitely would get, if that happened, and it has happened, but I've gotten them in touch with someone who's a professional like yourself in this work, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I deal more with demonic stuff. That's kind of my specialty. Because I learned that from Ed.
Right.
And believe me, when my phone doesn't ring, I'm happy.
Right.
I take no pleasure in going and getting involved in cases, because I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Ed Warren had his first major heart attack on a case of demonic possession. This was actually possession, where they had to exorcise this gentleman.
Yeah.
And I've got, unfortunately, and I'm still kind of a young gentleman, but I just got some health issues. Now, are those health issues due to the work that I've done? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe it's just coincidental.
Right.
You could never know for sure. But, I know my wife's always on my case. She's like, if you're not feeling well, you're not going. And I'm like, well, I have to go. No, you don't. And we get into an argument, and it's tough, because I always want to be there for people. I always want to help, but I have to be smart enough to realize I'm not strong enough.
Right.
And like I said, strong enough physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. You got to be in a state of grace. Father Torres and I talk about that all the time. So, you want to make sure you're grounded. You want to make sure you go to confession,
Right.
which takes a while for me, but receive the Holy Eucharist and pray. And you want to be in a state of grace so that you're prepared for battle if need be. I mean, we did. Archbishop Torres and I, you might find this interesting, in New York. We had a young gentleman and his friend approach our table. Right. And the friend was kind of distraught looking. He didn't look right. And his friend is like, yeah, we feel strongly that he has an attachment. Right. And he's had it for a while. And so Father and I looked at each other and said, well, let's talk more. We took him into an ante room, one of the small conference rooms in the building. It's just the four of us in there. And unbeknownst to everybody, even the Archbishop, I had grabbed my rosaries that I've gotten from the Vatican that were blessed by the Pope. You're getting higher than that, right?
Right.
And I had them in my hand, and I gave the holy water, because I had my whole kit there, my whole suitcase, to the Archbishop, and he's an exorcist. He is an exorcist. Right. So we were just going to go recite some prayers of deliverance. We weren't going to do an exorcism. That would be much different. But deliverance prayers are very powerful prayers, and they're like the layman's form of an exorcism, which anyone can recite. But they're just words unless you believe in them. I stress that all the time. A crucifix is nothing but a piece of metal around your neck unless you believe in it. Exactly. Or a piece of wood hanging on the wall. You need to believe in what that symbolizes and have that faith. And I always kind of coined the phrase from the movie Miracle on 34th Street. Faith is believing in something that common sense tells you not to.
Oh, I
just because, I love that line. I wish I made it up, but I didn't. Faith is believing in something when common sense tells you not to. Because faith is believing in something that's not tangible. Right. And so you believe in it. Or I keep looking around because I all my stuff's in the car, but I have a very holy Bible that I take with me that my grandfather passed away. When he passed away, he had it on his lap. Okay. My grandfather was very holy, would read the Bible, go to church just about every day before work. And, he would read the Bible before bed. And what they thought happened, and I was very close with him, is he fell asleep and had the Bible on his lap, and he had a heart attack in his sleep. Oh, wow. And so my mom gave me that Bible 30 some odd years ago. She's like, if you're going to do this work, you need protection. Take this Bible.
Right.
So that's part of my, so I brought this crucifix, rosary, I'm sorry, in my hand. Nobody knew I had it except me.
Right.
We put the gentleman in a chair, made sure he was comfortable. And I said, the Archbishop, I said, give me a moment. And I took this religious relic and I put it on the back of his neck.
Right.
And boy, did he have an aversion to that object.
Wow.
No one knew I had it.
Right.
And he just started writhing. His eyes rolled back. And yeah, it was pretty bad. And we weren't expecting this at all.
Right.
But we knew what to do. So he had a strong aversion to that. He had a very strong aversion to the holy water. Things like that. Not like you see in the movies with their heads spinning around and their pea soup coming out.
I think I would run then.
But no, this was tough. And then he kind of went limp, like in a trance. And I looked at the Archbishop. We looked at each other. I said, "It's not gone. It's still here. It's just playing possum."
Right.
And he's like, you're not going to trick us, and he's like, tell me your name. Tell me the time of your departure. These things are very real.
Right.
You see them in the movies, but they're based on fact.
Right.
And so we were in there about a half an hour, I think, which isn't a long time. Sometimes you have to do this stuff multiple times before they leave.
Right.
But he said he felt better. He looked better.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely looked better. And then we gave him a blessed crucifix and holy water, and he could hold them without any problem.
Right.
So he said, well, at least for now, this thing has left him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't write down their information, but I gave him my card. I said, email me when you get home and keep in touch and let me know. And they didn't. I have not heard from them yet. I still hold out hope that I will hear from them. But this just happened not this past weekend, the weekend before when I was up in Plattsburgh, New York.
Right.
And it was, like I said, we weren't expecting it, of course, but we were prepared.
Right.
Because, Father Ken knew what to do. And, I'm a strong guy. I was trying to hold this guy down in the seat so he didn't hurt himself.
Right.
And so, I've got one hand on the back of his neck and my other hand, I'm putting my body weight, like 290 pounds. I got my body weight and he's, up in the chair and his eyes are rolling back in his head. And I'm like, okay, there's just a lot of signs of demonic activity there. The aversion to religious objects, the strength, his facial features seem to be contorted a little bit. I don't know the gentleman, but his friend said, his face has changed, his eye color changed.
Wow.
It's not for the faint of heart. So for those thrill seekers out there,
right,
you're going to shat yourself.
Right.
I'm telling you, these people are like, oh, cool. I'd love to see that. No, you wouldn't.
Right. And it's funny because I just spoke to somebody in the last few weeks that got a hold of me and said, and basically we had a discussion turn into kind of a small argument because she literally came at me and said, well, I can get rid of anything, just if I bring in enough art, angels and this and that. And I'm like, oh.
That's all ego.
Yeah.
I cannot stand people with egos. I really can't. One of the things I say to our foundation members, I said, stay humble.
Yeah.
Stay humble. I mean, my name, people may not know my name as well as some of these people you see on television, but I know I can do what they can't.
Right.
And I could back that up. But it's like, oh, well, they'll eventually find themselves to me. But, they're misrepresenting themselves. And I understand they're under the guise of producers and they're telling them what to do, where to stand, what to say. And that's why I wouldn't get involved. We were supposed to do something with HBO years ago. And like, well, this is what we want to do. And I'm like, well, don't we have any say in this? I'm like, well, no, we're going to say, forget it. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I don't care about the money. I'm not a rich guy by any means.
Right.
By any means. Trust me. I want to call my wife down. She'll tell you, but I'm not in it for the money. And I don't care about the fame. I want people to know who I am, because if you need help, come to the foundation, and then I let my directors oversee these cases. And if they need my help, then they'll call me.
Right.
Otherwise I'm like, look, I'm not going to step on your toes, but if you need me, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I think I cut you off the air, but
No,
the
you didn't at
egos,
all.
the
No, you didn't.
egos thing drives me crazy.
I was just
You know,
wondering because when it came to me, I honestly got very my ego came out because I was like, one, if it comes to an entity or demonic,
yeah.
you're gonna need a little bit more than just prayer. You know what I mean? It's gonna be it can be a battle. And then
Yeah.
I said, if it comes to a
Oh, it's
spirit,
going to be a battle.
a soul that's passed on, you can't force the soul to leave. In my
Yeah,
world,
because
it's
they
just
have free will.
they have free
They,
will,
they have their
and
free will.
if you don't have the education walk in, why are you doing it? Why are you even thinking you can do it? So that was
It's
my
boggled
stance
the
on
mind.
it.
And you're absolutely right. It's just to make a statement like that. It just
Mhm.
sounds so narcissistic.
Yeah.
I can get rid of anything. I wouldn't even make that statement, and I could say it much more than you could. Or, I would never say that. And
Right.
like we just said, a spirit, even if it's an earthbound spirit, if they choose to stay here,
Mhm.
they'll stay here. If
Right.
they don't want to go, if they feel they've got unfinished work, or if they feel they won't be accepted on the other side, whatever the reason, they have that free will, and we have to accept that. And we could peacefully coexist with spirits.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
I know you do. I
see,
do.
I teach it. I teach it.
Yeah, I know
I
you do.
do. I
You're
teach
talking to the
that.
choir.
Yeah, I mean, I teach that to people. It's like, you know what? I can come and talk to your loved ones. I can talk to the person in your room.
Hmm.
I can talk to whoever's angry there, but I can't force them to leave. But I
Right.
can work out like a deal between the two of you that you can coexist, if
Hmm.
they choose not to move on.
Right.
But
Right. I know that you told me, we were telling me, like, the spirit would get angry if you changed the kitchen around and put in new
yeah,
cabinets or an island.
we've had
I'm like,
it.
and I have an attitude about that because everyone, look, you're dead. This is my house now. I'm going to do what I
Right.
want.
But
But
they've
then
been there
again, I don't
longer.
want to deal with the haunting.
Yeah. And
It's like,
people
all right,
people
let's.
don't
Yeah.
understand that. They don't, and I know you understand it and you
I
get it,
do.
you know what I mean? Because there's just so many we've had a lot of discussions on it, and it's like, wow, that has happened. Wow, this, you've read, you've seen
Yeah.
it.
We still need, and I know you know this, but we still need to respect them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Respect.
we need to respect, their memory, their spirit. And I do. When I go to cemeteries, which isn't often anymore because I don't really have the time, but I'm very respectful. I don't like to walk on graves,
Yeah.
But then I look around, I see the headstones that some of them have fallen over the years, but some of them it's vandalism, and that just disgusts me, really. Right here in my own town, some years ago, we had some teenagers. They were 16, 18 years old, and they went through Center Street Cemetery, and there's some headstones from the 1600s. And some of them you can't read because they're so oxidized, and they
Mhm.
just kicked them over.
Yeah.
And I know the guy very well. He's my neighbor around the corner. A guy's in charge of the cemetery association, and he was infuriated. They did catch them. But
Mhm.
they did probably, I think I heard, like $50,000 or so worth of damage. And why do that? Well, why would you find that fun?
Mhm. I don't understand. For
Desecrating a
myself,
grave
I
like
love you know what? I'm really that strange person. I love to go when I have time, I love to go to cemeteries because I
that. Oh,
love
it's
those old
quiet.
parts. I love seeing the stories. I love you
Yeah.
can see the story in the gravestones. You just see in the beauty of it. It's like, wow, and
I'm with you there, sister.
yeah,
I love especially old cemeteries, and the way the headstones, the way they worded it. You
yeah,
know, uh, you know, it's so cool
yeah,
um, to see that.
yeah,
But people need to be respectful,
yeah.
and people mock what they don't understand. I've always said that.
That's
We
true.
mock what we don't understand. I mean, when I'm giving a lecture to folks, I just finished one the other night at one of the libraries. Um, I tell them, look, I'm not trying to force you to believe what I'm telling you. I said, but I'm not standing up here. I haven't spent almost 37 years of my life on a bunch of BS. I
Right,
said, this is stuff, everything that we're talking about here tonight, every photo I'm showing you has a story.
right,
Okay. Every picture has a story, but not every picture tells a story.
right.
So, I could show a picture up behind me, on the projector and go on a 20-minute rant about that picture. And people
Mhm.
are just mesmerized by, okay, this is what happened the night this picture was taken. This is what was going on. This is what we did, you know. But you get some naysayers, and look, I welcome and encourage, differing opinions, but be respectful.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman once, it's many years ago now, and I was showing a photograph, and I said, "Look, I'm not saying this is a ghost. I don't know what it is, but it was some kind of form of light energy that was caught on the camera." And I said, "I'd be irresponsible to stand here and say this is a ghost, this is a demon, because I don't know for sure
Right.
until you get more involved. But just did by taking a picture."
Right.
And this guy is sitting there. He's like, "Well, I'm a photographer. I've been taking pictures for 25 years, and I could tell that's faked. That's a
Right.
fake photo." So I was biting my tongue, and I said, "Sir," I said, "thank you for the compliment, because I took the photo and it's not doctored."
Right.
I said, I was an hour from my home. I think it was a Friday night, actually. I said, "It's Friday night. You're here for free.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This program, I'm doing this for nothing. Why am I going to drive when I could have been home with my children and my wife at the movies or something? So I'm going to come here and lie to you?"
Right.
I wasn't happy. And the guy's just like, pissed him off. So he came up to me after the show and he just apologized profusely. I said, "Look, sir, I don't mind you disagreeing if you have a dissenting opinion." I said, "But you need to be respectful." I said, "That's why I got upset, because the way you said it was disrespectful, and I will not stand for that."
Yep.
That's what I used to do when I used to go with Ed and Lorraine when they were lecturing. There were people that would heckle them.
Mm-hmm.
They would heckle them, and Ed would get upset and just look at me. I'm like, "I got this."
Right.
Excuse me, sir, ma'am, you can't do that. Please don't do that, or I'm going to ask you to leave.
And that's with, I think, anything. I was at a Paracon yesterday, a paranormal event yesterday. And it was like everybody was so respectful. Everybody was up until almost the end.
Oh no!
And then it was like,
You got stories for group?
well, you know what? Everybody lost, they lost every friend they had. It's over with. You know what I mean? It was like, everybody just went, if you got to be disrespectful, then we don't need to give you attention. And
You'll have to tell me about that later.
yeah,
Sounds like, there's probably more to the story that we have time for, but
yeah, there was, it was
I hate
just
that.
it was just a simple disrespect, when it's like, you don't need to be that way, so
Were egos involved? That's all I need to ask.
egos involved. Yeah, one paranormal group to another one, and or to another paranormal person. It was like,
Well, I mean,
gosh,
when you said before, your ego. Look, I can have an ego too, but in defense.
yeah,
It's like, well, wait a minute. I've been doing this 36 plus years. I know what I'm talking about. I know a little something.
right.
How long you been doing this? "Oh, I've been doing this 30 years. Really? You can traipse around cemeteries for 30 years, or you've been actually battling demons for 30 years.
Right.
I said, don't try and stand toe to toe with me.
Right.
Because, you're BS. You're just puffing your chest out and then look at me. I'm like, I don't like that.
Right.
And then my ego will come out because I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. And I got people that can back up what I'm saying, that people that have known me this long, like Chris, and that doesn't happen very often to me at all. And I don't like getting like that, because then I feel bad afterwards. Like, yeah, I was really rude. I'll feel bad because it's not my personality, but sometimes you got to put people in their place.
Right. Well, like I told you, going back into that, when me and you started talking, I said, you know what? I have no problem working with you, but the minute I see something scary, I'm out of here, because
I
don't know anything about that. I will go in, I'll talk, but if they grown horns, I'm gone. And I'll be like,
and that's fine.
I'm telling you exactly
that.
what I seen. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Because it's not my realm.
I respect that. I had a good friend of mine. She lives in Florida now. She's a very gifted psychic. And we were going to, it was a restaurant / bar in one town over from me. And so we had gone out. To dinner. I said, "Well, we're going to be going by there. Do you mind if we swing by?" And she's like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." She had never been there before. So this place had a lot of activity, and it wasn't all good, but I'm not convinced it was demonic, but I was hoping that she could help me with some answers. And we pulled into the parking lot, and I could see her face. We're getting out of the car. She's like, "I can't go in."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I can't go in. She goes, "I already sense it." And she was terrified. She was actually trembling.
Yep.
And we had our own cars. She was there with her husband, and her husband's like, are you sure?" I said, "Look, if you're not comfortable, you take her home." I said, "Richard, take her home.
Yeah.
I don't want you." She's like, "No." She goes, "Give me a couple of minutes." I said, "Jackie," I said, "No. If you're not comfortable, I would never, ever, force her to go in there.
Right.
But you know what? She faced her fears and she ended up going in after a few minutes. She
Yeah.
pulled herself together and she's walking around like this. She goes, there is something very, very bad here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I kind of knew that because, you know, this thing would wreak havoc. Like I got pictures in the kitchen, the burners, you know, would be on like 6 feet
Right.
or not 6 feet, 6 inches. And,
Right.
you know, with gas burners, you got to push in and turn them. All
Right.
4 of them or 6 of them would be on. And the restaurant would be closed, the bar, but Lynn would be in her office, you know, doing all the receipts and the book, you know, the books and everything. And she'd hear this and she'd come out there and all the burners would be on, you know. So she would call me and it would only take me 10 minutes to get there. It's one, you know, not that far. So I went there one night. We went down in the basement because there should have beer bottles, you know, stock downstairs on the shelves, and you'd hear smash, crash, you know, just be flying all over the place.
Right.
And we went down there and I'm like, okay, it's hiding. I know it's hiding because they want to hide in the shadows and they don't want to be discovered. And certainly not scared of me. I'm just a mortal man, but you know, you could hear growling
Right.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, well, let's go upstairs and make sure everything's good upstairs. And we go upstairs and the basement door was always ajar about 6-8 inches.
Mm-hmm.
It was the hinge was broken, so you'd have to pull it closed and latch it. So I come up and we're standing in the kitchen. My back is to the door. I'm about 3 feet from it, and Lynn is in front of me, and we're talking. All of a sudden, the door slams and latches
Oh
right
wow.
behind me, as if to say, "Stay out of here. I don't want
Right.
you down here." So guess what I did?
You went in.
I went back down there. I said, "Lynn, you stay here. I'm going downstairs." I went downstairs. I called it every name in the book, and
Right.
I don't teach people to do that.
Right.
I was upset. I was pissed. And I
Right.
always tell people don't go anywhere alone either.
Right.
You know, so I broke my own rules and you know, I'll full disclosure, I broke my own rules, but I said, Lynn, you stay upstairs and make sure nothing happens up here. And I went down there and I stayed down there for another 20 minutes or so, nothing happened, and I came back up. But you have to pull that door closed and latched it. And it slammed and latched on its own, as
Right.
if to say, stay the heck out of here. I don't want you down here.
Right.
Well, she ended up selling the business, and the guy that bought it bulldozed it. And now they built a Taco Bell on the property.
It's fitting.
Well, you know, I like Taco Bell. It's just expensive. So I've talked to a couple of people that used to work there, and they'd say all kinds of stuff would go on. I said, well, yeah, the land itself is
Mm-hmm.
the problem, not the actual building. Just because you bulldoze the building doesn't necessarily mean the energy is going to disappear.
Right.
But you know, the manager's so scared they don't even want to talk about it. I'm like, look, if you need me, here's my card. Call me. But they
Right.
haven't called me, which is fine. I don't need more work to do.
Oh, that's just it. So
Yeah.
what is, you know what, before we let you go, what is one of the scariest cases you've ever worked on?
Go ahead. I get that question a lot.
I know. I didn't think you'd have to think about that.
Well, my go-to one, I'll
Very
tell you what,
Monday.
the go-to one that I usually talk about is a case of Bristol, Connecticut that Ed sent me on, but I was only about 21,
Okay.
20, 21.
That's fair because, you know, fear comes with not
Well,
having
yeah, because I was still learning. You know,
Yeah.
I started when I was with them when I was 18. So, you know, it was a couple of years really before he'd let me go somewhere on my own or with you know, I took another guy with me.
Right.
But I was always with them on all these other cases. So I remember this in Bristol, because this family was really affected. So Ed gets a phone call. We're at a lecture, you know, and he gets a call from the family. I remember him say, "Joe, come here for a second." He's like, I think Brian was his name. He goes, "Take Brian with you. Go to this address." He goes, "This family's just terrified." He goes, "You got your equipment with you? It's in the car.
Right.
Cameras, video, audio equipment, recording equipment." So I get to the house. And I remember this like it was 5 minutes ago. I knock on the door, and someone opens the door, and they're looking at me. I said, "I'm Joe Franke. Ed Warren sent me." The door flies open. They grab me. It's like the whole family just hugged me.
Right.
Like, thank God you're here. They were terrified. And I'm looking around the room, and it's kind of an open floor plan. To the left here was the living room area. To the right, there was an open kitchen, dining room set. And then there was a hallway with the bathroom, and there was 2 or 3 bedrooms. But everything, and I'm telling you, everything this family owned toys, pots and pans, blankets, pillows, mattresses, clothing, everything they owned was in that living room. That
Wow.
family would sleep together, huddled together. They were so scared, and they wanted to be close to the door.
Wow.
And I said, well, so I sat down with them. I said, what's going on? I said, I got a pretty good idea by seeing what this place looks like, but tell me what's going on. And they said, one thing that had happened that scared them and prompted them to call Ed was they would see these like hooded black figures that would come out of the back bedroom at the end of the hall. They said seemed to be the epicenter. And they would come out of like the closet area and they would float down the hall, and they'd be almost as tall as the ceiling. So your standard ceiling is like 8 feet. So almost 8 feet tall. And they would see these things, and then they would just kind of disappear and just dissipate, or they go through the wall or something like that. Well, that night they were there watching TV, the family, and there was a baby, and they had the baby in, I don't think it was a crib. It was like a bassinet.
Right.
And they said they look over and they saw this. Now, and the whole family saw this. Everybody. It wasn't just one person. Saw this thing come down the hall, and then it kind of like went up to the bassinet, and it kind of looked down like it was looking in the bassinet. I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but it looked down in the bassinet, and they freaked out, and they grabbed the baby, and they went to a neighbor's house or something, and then they called Ed, and Ed said, all right, well, go home. Joe will be there in a few minutes. Just, so they had gone back to the house, mustered up the courage to go back. And they're telling me this, and they're just terrified. They're crying. And I said, okay, I'm going to set up my equipment. Brian and I said, I want you guys to try to get some sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I said, try to get some rest. I'm going to be in the back bedroom because that's where stuff was happening. So that's where I had to go. Right. Now I'm mad because whenever there's kids involved, I get really upset.
Right.
Like, you know what? Why don't you pick on somebody when they come a little bigger,
Right.
This, poor baby was, probably didn't know what was going on. So I set up my camera, faced it towards the closet. I think I stepped on a Lego, and that still hurts. But, there was like a couple of toys on the floor. Yeah, I remember that. It was Legos on the floor. Those hurt like a bear. And Brian went into the other bedroom, and it was quiet. Nothing happened. Nothing. I don't think I got any audio or video. But they were so scared. Here's one part I forgot to tell you. When they would go to the bathroom, someone would go in the bathroom to do their business, and they'd have the door ajar, and they'd have their hand. You can't see what I'm doing. They'd have their hand reaching outside the door, and someone would stand in the hallway holding their hand.
Oh, wow.
Because what they were saying, what would happen on occasion is that they'd look in the bathroom mirror and see this ugly, grotesque face of like an old man or something looking at them. And they said it would say things like, you're all going to die or something like that. Well, this was on, I think, a Friday night. So that following Monday or Tuesday, Archbishop McKenna, who was an exorcist, he passed away some years ago. He came out and did I don't want to say an exorcism, because exorcism are performed on people, not places, but he did bless the house and everything. And I wasn't there because I had to work, but from what I hear, it was successful. But this was in the middle of, a condo. It wasn't an end unit. It was in the middle of whatever it was, had to have been attached to someone there.
Right.
I feel, because it's kind of odd that it would be attached to the place or the property, because the couple of neighbors that I talked to a little bit said nothing, they've got nothing to report.
Right.
But scariest only because I was really scared, because this is the first time I'd gone out on my own.
Yeah.
But I know we're running out of time here. The other time was when I got picked up and thrown across the room on a case. That was the first and only time. I mean, I've been, hit and scratched and burned. But I mean, I actually left my feet, and I was 350 pounds at the time.
Wow.
And I must have went about 10 feet, and I hit my right shoulder on the wall, and my neck, and then I fell down, and I got up, and I was scared, but I was angry.
Right.
I was like, I'm like, why don't you show yourself? It's like I can't fight something like that physically. I mean, it's got strength that you can't possibly comprehend. But
Scary.
If you've ever been touched or God forbid slapped or
Mm-hmm.
punched or something by an unseen force,
Mm-hmm.
when it actually touches your person, that's when it really gets real.
It does.
It's one thing to have poltergeist activity where you just got objects that are being, the toaster's
Right.
going off or dishes are flying around or something. People are terrified enough with that, but when something touches you that you can't see or you can't see it coming, so I mean, I can go all
No,
week
it's a
into
whole.
stories, but we don't have time.
No, I get it because
All right.
literally, I've had that moment where I have been touched in this and that, and I mean, I was angry by it. I wasn't scared. I was angry.
Well, you feel
Do
violated.
not touch me. I'm done. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I tend to move into haunted places. I don't know why. I just tend to move in and
Yeah.
they're there. But I get one night of activity and then never again for the time
Yeah.
I'm there because I'm like, I'm done. I get mad.
Well, they have to know their boundaries too.
Yeah.
You're giving them the respect, you expect that in return.
Yeah.
But you can't. There's no bargaining with
Well, it's just so funny because
negative
before my
stuff.
development, I get mad and I'd scream at him and I never get another thing. When I'm finally developed, when I'm finally doing this as a living, I walk into a haunted house and I'm like, really, now I'm bargaining with you. You know what I mean? But it goes from being a coexist, of setting a boundary of get out of your own house, and thank goodness they were respective of that to, now I'm all about, hey, let's coexist. Let's
Yeah, well,
let's
maybe
go.
I do what we call spirit rescue. Maybe they
Yeah.
need a little push. Maybe
Yeah.
they need help. Maybe you need to bring someone from the other side to pull them over or something.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to do that.
Gotta be willing.
But it's like, look, if we're going to live here together, you're doing the dishes.
Yeah. That's just
I'll
it.
put them to work.
Power bill
My
did.
wife's like, give them the vacuum. Let them vacuum the living room for you.
It works.
So,
Don't do that because they can apport things. The next thing your keys are missing because they've done cleaned them up
it
for you.
happens to me all the time.
You know?
I'm like, am I nuts? I just had my keys in my hand. I put them down somewhere and I couldn't find them. Happened to me one time. You know where I found them?
Mm.
In the refrigerator,
Ah,
in the crisper.
I would
I'm
think
like,
that
well,
is
I know I
probably
didn't put
spirit
them there.
activity. Yeah.
Well,
That
I
is you
found them
told
in
them if
places.
in my
I'm
firm
yelling at
belief,
the kids.
that is you've told them you need to make your own, you need to start pitching in. They went, fine, I'll clean up your keys.
Oh yeah, it happens, and I think there's just toying with me. But I'm like, come on, I don't have time for this. Where are my keys? I'll
Yeah.
grab the spare keys, because I know where they are. But then I'll
Right.
find them eventually. But
Oh,
sometimes I get nervous. Like, did they fall into the garbage can? Because I have some timers.
yeah.
Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for coming on. I
This has been a
appreciate you.
fun.
I
Hope I didn't put
appreciate
your
you.
audience to sleep.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Hey, I know I'm tired, but it's only because literally I traveled all weekend and
I
what,
know.
5:00 in the morning.
You
I'm
never called me, so I thought you might have been too tired.
Well, I was gonna call, but then I seen you were doing a show, and I'm like, bad time to call. Hey, Joe, you got 5 minutes before you go on the air?
Yeah, I was there. I was done by like 9 or so, but I don't know what time you were driving back.
And I was home at 9. I was at home
Oh,
at 9,
okay,
done
okay.
by 9:30. So
I didn't know. I thought like last time we talked,
Yeah.
it was late at night. So
yeah,
I guess I
and
was assuming.
I've been fortunate to go. If I would have left when I was supposed to, I would have been on the road until like 11:30. But
Yeah.
last night I was fortunate to say, "Can I leave early?" They went, "Yes, it's slow. Just go. Thank you."
Okay.
So I
Well,
got
last night was a lot of fun. They actually
Yeah.
went live, but it was the local TV.
Yeah,
And what they did is, if I could tell you real quick, they had some children, like high school kids.
yeah,
And the youngest was 11, but the oldest was like 20. Who's had already graduated. But there was 5 of them there, and they were giving me some questions. So I'm telling them some of these stories, and they're just like staring at me. They're just mesmerized. And
yeah.
I said, they just want to keep hearing more. I said, well, I'm going to be down at your high school on Saturday.
Right,
Tell your parents, tell your parents and bring your friends.
right.
Looking to get a few hundred people there.
Somebody's asking if you have like a YouTube channel or something.
I don't. I keep having people want me. I'm on Facebook. You could look me up on Facebook, and then I have a Facebook page for my other group is the Connecticut Paranormal Research Society. I'm
Right.
not on there very much, but I'm not all about that. But somebody said I should do a YouTube channel because they want to watch it. People want me to do a podcast, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, maybe if it's in the cards, maybe you can tell me.
I honestly
But
think that a
I
YouTube
may,
channel would
but
be
no, to answer
great.
the question, I'm sorry, I go off on a tangent, but I
Yeah.
don't have one presently.
Yeah. I
You
think a
know, and
YouTube channel for you would be great because of your experience, your knowledge, your stories, not only educational, but honestly about educate. Yeah. You know what I mean? People are going to be interested
yeah.
because it is very
And
much
be
there.
educated.
Yeah. And
And be
educated
educated.
and
I've
be
learned from
educated.
people. I don't care if you've been doing this 4 months or 40 years. I can learn
Yeah.
from you. I don't know everything,
Right. I
you
mean, you
know, and
think
I
about,
would never say I do.
if
But
you talked
yeah,
about every case, think about, I mean, you wouldn't even have to, you could go on forever.
yeah.
You wouldn't
I
run
j-
out of material.
I joked a couple weeks ago. I posted up. I said I'm having some thoughts about doing a YouTube channel entitled "Deep Thoughts with Joe Franke." Who
There
would
you
listen to
go.
that? And all my friends are like, "Oh, that's a perfect idea." I said, "Once you get into my head,
You know what? Everybody's blowing up here going, yes, 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 basically. Very
yeah." It's
informative.
like,
Words.
remember from Saturday Night Live, "Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy." That's
Yes.
that's where I took it from. But
Yeah.
"Deep Thoughts with Joe Franke."
I think that'd be good. I think it'd
Maybe
be
some of
good.
your listeners would jump on.
I think they would in a heartbeat because you know what? People, like I had I don't know if you know who Dave Schrader is.
I
Holzer
know the
Bible.
name.
Yeah.
I haven't met him, but I
Yeah,
know.
he's really a nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm honestly I'm proud to call him one of my friends, and
Good.
he's a really
We
nice
need
guy.
more nice people in
And
this
he's had
field.
a couple of TV shows now on Discovery Channel, and I always congratulate him because he always takes it and he puts his foot down to say, I'm not going to take this from we're going boo, we're not going, to poke the ghost, we're not going in there to wreak
Good.
havoc, we're not going
Good.
in there to make it
I
worse.
respect him for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going in to find the story, to bring up this. And I'll tell you what, there's some places, I mean, when they were doing Holzer, Hans Holzer, you
Yes.
know that name.
I have his book right here.
Yeah, and they went off of that TV show. And when it was on that show for I think it was 3
Yeah.
seasons, it was about going in and finding the story and putting the spirit at ease and finding the
Yeah.
story. And
Yeah.
they just did another one I think it's called A Devil's Perch or something like that. But another show that was very informative. It's very
Yeah.
informative. Let's help these people, not hurt these people.
Right.
You know. So
Right.
and I think I think you're a lot like him when it comes to let's educate, let's find the real story, let's find the deeper, let's
Yeah.
help.
Let's not stir the nets, because you just reminded me of something. It's like eventually, if I go to someone's home or place of business or wherever to help them, eventually I'm going home.
Yeah.
And if I come up stir the pot, and now, holy crap happens after I leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that to someone.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know what you did, but things are going crazy. That rarely happens with us. Usually it's quiet.
Right.
I'll get a call a week later, a follow up, and they're like, I haven't slept this well in months. Nothing's happened. I'm like, good. So leave well enough alone.
Well, my thought process is if you've already told them, call me no matter what. And if you stir the pot, they're going to call you at 3 a.m. You're like, God, I'm not getting any sleep.
Yeah. Well, the only time, the few times that, and I don't get upset very easily, but what I will get upset is when there's children involved and the children are being targeted.
Yeah.
That's when I have actually, and please, anyone that's listening, don't ever do this, but I've actually said aloud, saying, I'm taking you out of here with me tonight.
Right.
I said, I'm giving you permission to come with me and leave this family alone. Yeah. That's a very dangerous thing to do. But I would get so upset. I've done it a couple of times, to be honest with you, and without any ill effects. But who knows? 10 years from now,
you never know. There might be the gas tank waiting. Who knows?
I know people are like, oh, that's hypocritical. It is. So I'm an open book. I'll tell you. I will never lie. Tell you the God's honest truth. I have done it, and I'm telling people, don't do that.
Right, because I hear about it. I'm telling you, Joe. You tell me you can already talk to somebody else who said they did that. I went, no, you did not.
No, I mean, I haven't done it in quite a while, but I think I did it in that case in Enfield, Connecticut, the bad one. But that was 2008. But I'm already crazy, so you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, but then all you've got is you've got a very angry spirit in 2 locations versus 1.
Yeah, well, my buddy has activity going on ever since that case because he challenged it.
Yeah.
He challenged it, and he wasn't prepared. And it not only went after him, it went after his family and his marriage and stuff like that. So they're still together, thank goodness, because their faith has brought them through. But, I even told him one day, I said, I love you like a brother, but I think you should step back from this work for a little while. This is some years ago, and he got a little upset with me. I said, I if I didn't love you, I wouldn't tell you to do that. But
Right.
this stuff, we can become targets. I'm not impervious to this. I'm just a man.
Exactly.
So I have to be careful what I say.
Right.
So it's like, don't do as I say, not as I do, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
But it was when I was young and stupid. Now I'm old and stupid.
Well, on that note, Joe, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on. We're gonna leave the people with something. I'm old and stupid.
Let's talk soon, though.
We
Give me a
definitely
call
will.
when you're not so busy.
Well, I'm driving again tomorrow night, so there you go. It'll be
Oh,
an
yeah?
earlier call though. So
Okay. I should be
tonight's
around.
Halloween. We're trick or treating, so nobody's hearing from me.
Yeah, I'm going out like this.
There you go. I'm doing.
I opened the front door. Kids give me candy.
There you go. I love it. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much, everybody.
You have a
God
great
bless.
day. You
All
too.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody else, I'll be back in a few moments here with DeEtte Ranae on School Through Spirit, WLTK-DB.com. Hopefully I got a commercial out.
Brandon Wainwright, author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, and owner of Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, offers Reiki as well as color and sound modalities to anyone seeking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. While color and sound healing, a technique that brings balance and health to one's chakras and body, must be provided in person. Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, can be given in person or equally effectively from a distance. For more information or to make an appointment for a session, please visit TysonsGiftHealing.com. That's TysonsGiftHealing.com.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in and listening. That was Joe Franke I had with me today, the CIO, not CEO, of More Legacy Foundation. And trust me, if you're out there and you've got a serious happening going on within your home, your residence, that you just can't get help with, please reach out to the Warren Legacy Foundation. They are there to help. They are free. I cannot say free enough. They are free service to help people that really do have that paranormal paranormal activity that they just can't handle on their own. So, or haven't been able to get help anyplace else. So there you go. Today is 5 cards stud, guys. And guess what? I was naughty. I went and bought a new deck. I don't even know why, but I seen it. It called to me. It's a Halloween Oracle deck. I'll probably only use it this time of year. That's it. But honestly, the reason I grabbed this deck is I walked into my local metaphysical store. I seen the deck as a daily pull. I went and pulled a card. It said infinite possibilities. And I went, any deck that says that to you has got to be your deck. And I literally went, I don't need a deck. And they went, yes, you do. So I said, okay. And I bought the deck. So we are going to use it today. It is beautiful illustrations, beautiful everything. I've only used it now like twice over the weekend. So let's see what they have for you guys. Again, it's like a 5-card stud. Pick a card 1 through 5. Pick any one of the numbers or pick all the numbers, whatever you'd like. And that's what you get to work on for the week, okay? That is what you get to work on for the week. So I've been shuffling them a little bit since we've been on a break and throughout the thing. So let's do this, guys. So card number 1, the light after the darkness. Oh, my God. Gorgeous cards. Look at this. The light after the darkness. I like this because if you pick number 1, I'm feeling that you've probably been struggling a little bit. You've been struggling going, oh my God, when is this ever going to end? Like I've seriously had enough. And I'm going to tell you, this card is saying, guess what? It's finally probably over. You're finally at that new dawn. You're finally at that new break. You're finally getting breakthroughs and you're able to push through that. You're now starting to begin to put those struggles behind you. Now I'm going to tell you that doesn't mean things are over. It just means this situation is over. This period, this struggle itself is over and behind you. Not to say there won't be more in front of you because it's life and that's how it works. But for right now, number 1 is about you're starting a new beginning. Card number 2, the Skull of Flowers, creative through the ashes. Oh my gosh, look at these gorgeous cards. They're not even spooky. They really aren't. I was expecting spooky. They're not spooky. Now, coming through the ashes, I another kind of saying that I do love, because as you know, once something is burned, once something is just whatever, you really are excuse me, it's telling me, excuse me so much, it's telling me that you have pushed through it. You have pushed through it. This is really kind of starting to say something here between the two cards. But this card is telling me you have, you know what, you're done with the struggles. It's burned. It's, you know what, the phoenix has burned itself. You're pushing through it, and you're realizing everything around you is not so bad because you've survived it. And this is what it's about. It's you have survived. Now, if you're that person, you've had that struggle and you've been going, oh my God, what is going on with my life? This is saying, look around you. You are still standing. You are still standing strong. It didn't kill you. And you know what? You can handle so much more. And that's what this card is saying. Give yourself a pat on the back. Look at how amazing you are. Okay. And it's time for you to realize that strength. Take the harvest of what you've learned in. Card number 3, hearth. Happiness is in our hearts and homes. I also like that. You know, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think there's going to be a card in this deck I don't like, because I do like this card. So many people, you know, as Joe was talking, like that instant gratification type of thing. And you know what? There is nothing in this world. Money can make life easier. Big home can give you more exercise cleaning it. But really, that happiness is really within you. Okay. Where is home? Home is where the heart is. It's where you lay your head. That, you know what? It's not the building. It's yourself. You know, it's the body. It's yourself. And that's where the happiness begins. So if you picked card number 3 and you're looking for happiness, going, oh my God, I would like this, I would like that, this makes things life easier, blah blah blah, yeah, all good and said, but turn to yourself for the happiness to look with that. Okay. Card number 4, the change card, the mummy card, the change. I always laugh at this. How is mummy really changed? This card came up over the weekend and I literally looked at it, went, how is mummy changed? They don't really change. You know what? They just get browner, dustier. You know, say undo the wraps and restart again, I guess. But honestly, I think the change more is about going from life into death. It's transformation. It is about, realizing that, life is just about transformation. It's about becoming something new. It's about moving on. And that, because that's really what a mummy is about. Mummies are a concept that they walk the earth, that they are there, you know, that the existence of a being doesn't end. Back in the day, we just didn't understand it was a consciousness. But if you pick card number 4, this is that you're going through a transformation, dear. You are going through this transformation. It is beautiful. And, who knows what you're going to be on the other side. But trust me, you got this. Okay. The last card number 5, apple, risk and reward. Oh my God. I like this card. I like this card. I love, love this card because you know what? This card looks kind of gory, doesn't it? But when I look at the apple and the risk, I'm honestly thinking about Snow White in my head. I know I'm really weird, but I'm thinking about Snow White, okay? Because think about this woman, this innocent, song-loving lady running through the woods, talking to all about the animals in the trees. Trust, takes a bite of an apple. That was a risk from a stranger. My gosh. Falls asleep. But the reward was her prince and total true love and happiness for the rest of her life, wasn't it? And that's what it's about, guys. Life is always about taking risks. It's always about this opportunity, that opportunity. And if you pick card number 5, you've got some opportunities. They do feel risky. They do feel like pushing out of your comfort zone. But this card is telling you, you know what? You got to take this and run with it. So say yes to the opportunities and seek the, and stay open for the reward that's going to come to you. So card number 1 was that dawn card. It really was that you are, the struggles are really behind you. New beginnings are coming. Number 2 was creating through the ashes, which is really that, guys, you've been standing strong. You've made it. Oh my God, look around. Card number 3 is finding happiness within yourself, because this is really where you got to find it. Number 4 was that change card, which is all about transformation. And card number 5 is taking a risk. Just taking the risk, taking the opportunity. Know that you're not alone in this, and that, you know what, it's just going to be rewarding in the end, because you know what, that's how life works and that's how life rocks. Now let's pull a card. Oh my God, which one? All of them are yelling at me. Which card should we pull for just that extra card that says, let's give you an extra card. So we are going to use the Divine Feminine Oracle deck for this. That extra card that just kind of brings it all together, accumulation. I'm going to shuffle, just going to pick. Oh my God, oh my God, they all fell out at me. But this is the one that was still standing looking at me. And it's a white buffalo calf woman. Oh my God. What an interesting story with us. The prophetess of the sacred way, the hardest compass, the path of love is true abundance. This card really, really hits home for me. And I'm going to talk a minute about it because the white buffalo calf woman is Native American. And not all tribes follow this or even understand it or even know about it. But in my neck of the woods, it is really about a white buffalo. It's about, the best that I can remember of the story is about the white buffalo woman came to the tribe and, during a time of struggle, of famine and struggle. And she told them that she would return, but when she returned, she would return as a white buffalo. And in turn, that white buffalo turned 4 times in the dirt. And with each turn, turned a different color. And when the white buffalo turned to the last color, you would find peace on earth. And as the legend holds, and that was a legend that went on and on and on for a long time. Well, the white buffalo was born. Her name was Miracle. And she was born in Janesville, Wisconsin, where I live. And shortly after she was born, I actually moved to the land of which she lived. And I had the experience of loving her and knowing her and spending time with her, which was truly an honor. I also was there when she passed away. And I will tell you what, I didn't see peace on earth, but what I did find was a peace of the beginning within myself, because it was the beginning of my own personal transformation. It was the beginning of how I seen other lives transform around me. Now, I still had some really dark-seated trauma to go through, but all of it was the beginning of who you see today. So for myself, that is the perfect card of today, the perfect card to finish up that reading, to leave with you for whichever card that you had, the number you had picked today. But also it's a perfect card for me to understand what Halloween and the new beginnings are for myself. For me, that's amazing. It's lovely. And with that, I think I'm about out of time, guys. Okay, I think I'm about out of time. And again, I want to thank all of you guys for showing up, for taking the time to listen, taking the time to just supporting us, supporting the station, supporting the shows, listening to the podcasts, you know what, and bringing us up to the status that we are today, and for always tuning in and embracing us. And I truly cannot say thank you enough for that. I do want to let you know who I'm going to have on next week, because next week is into November. Oh, you are going to love her. Oh my God, you're going to love her. Her name is Tawny Lewis. You are going to love her. She is based out of California. She is a master teacher with me. She's a phenomenal medium. She's a phenomenal woman. And she's also huge into paranormal. Oh my God, this woman is a rock star. And please, so take a moment next week to tune in with me here on DeEtte Ranae with School Through Spirit on WLTK-DB.com. I'll see you in a week, guys. Bye-bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.